You are listening to StreetLife Radio with myself, Jason Bird, and that was Josh Groban and You Raised Me Up, which was chosen by our special guest today, Stuart. Stuart, why did you choose that track?
I chose that song because when you said bring in some music, I thought rather than bring something that was literal about Mindings, I thought I wanted to do something that invokes memories, because photographs, music, and people really can invoke strong memories. So I listened to that song, and it makes me think of my mum, because it was my mum's favourite song. She died 4 years ago, she had cancer, and that was a favourite song. And it's just, as I say, photographs, music invoke strong memories, and that just reminds me of my mum. And what we're trying to do is capture that with Mindings, but with photographs, so that when people upload photographs, it can be very, very powerful. So, for example, we actually had Mindings running in a hospital last summer. It was a brain injuries unit in a hospital, and they did a clinical study. And what they found was that particularly the older photographs, people like receiving these older photographs, because even if their memory is going, if they're living with dementia, for example, short-term memory goes, but long-term memory stays. And if you show somebody an old picture, not only can they recall the minutiae of the details, they remember things that people said, etc. So that's really what we're trying to capture, the power of memory, the power of that communication and the connection.
Now, we gave a brief introduction earlier to the idea of Mindings. Let's talk a bit more about that. How did the idea evolve?
Well, basically, what Mindings is, and we've got one running in the studio, you can see it
here.
Yes,
we can, yeah.
And what we say is that with Mindings, we enable you with your mobile phone to send captioned photographs, text messages, calendar reminders and social media content directly to a digital screen that the recipient doesn't even need to touch. And part of that came about was because when I was building this with my dad, he was saying it's got to be something I don't have to touch, because a lot of particularly older people are a little bit technology shy like that. Now, that's not because my dad's stupid. At the moment, the only technology he uses is the television remote control. But he's a car mechanic, and my childhood was watching my dad take apart cars and put them back together. But just like a lot of people, they're thrown by modern technology. And so when I built this, it had to be something that just was ambient, something that just ran away in the background. And then, of course, we then over time introduced the feature that you touch the picture and I get a message back to see that you've received it. And we realised actually what we're doing there is when my dad is touching that picture just to let me know he's received the picture, he's actually letting me know that he's alive and well and interacting with the world. So that was how that evolved, and really, we've been putting a lot of thought behind how we could make this something that is really valuable to the recipient but also to the sender.
It's a very good idea. And you was just telling me that you were invited to 10 Downing Street to demonstrate it as well, weren't you?
Yes, we were actually. That was something that was quite a surprise to us. It pretty much came out of the blue, and through an intermediary contact, we were invited down to actually present to one of the Prime Minister's aides. So Stu and I dressed up, shaved, washed, suited and booted, and took ourselves down to number 10 Downing Street. Got led in. Met the 10 Downing Street cat.
Larry the cat, yeah.
Bumped into a few well-known politicians, almost quite literally in one case, as we went round the corner. And then we demoed, and it was very well received. I'm very impressed with it, actually. Unfortunately, you viewers can't see it, but I'll demonstrate to Jason a nice shiny photograph of Stu and outside.
Oh, yes, there we go.
Street,
yep.
With a happy policeman.
Yeah. Now, how does the technology work? How does it work?
As Stu said, the whole idea with Mindings was to make it as ambient as possible, to make it simple. So we set ourselves some briefs. It had to be easy to use, clear. It had to be completely hands-off. The reason for the hands-off, actually, was not just because that was one of the original ideas that Stu's dad mentioned. It was actually because we realised that people take for granted how much physical ability is actually needed to use computers and technology. We're all used to using keyboards, mice, touch screens. As you get older, these things become harder. If you have arthritis, using a mouse is almost impossible. Using a keyboard is tricky at best. If you've got something like, say, Parkinson's, trying to use a touch screen and narrow in to an area is really, really difficult. And so we decided it had to be something that switched on, sat in the corner, and at bare minimum just worked ambiently. How it actually works is that people actually get a small Mindings device, as you can see this tablet here, and maybe we'll put some pictures on the website later. They switch it on, they connect it up to their home broadband. Unfortunately, that's easy to get now because you can get broadband for a few pounds a month. And basically, it just sits there and does its thing. The rest of it is actually completely operated by the family. They can control who sends things, what type of content. They can link out to their family calendars. But from the actual end user's perspective, it's a switch on, look at it, and need no other skills or knowledge to actually operate it. Solution.
There you go. It does sound a very interesting idea, I must say. So for someone like my nan who won't touch, and I know she's listening to this, someone who won't touch a computer, won't go on Facebook, won't go on Twitter, but yet she knows how to log into StreetLife Radio and listen to me every Friday.
Of course.
She'll be able to use this very easily.
Exactly, and someone like your nan is really the prime person that Mindings is actually designed for. They know that they're missing out on family content. They value the pictures, the statuses, know what's going on in the family, in many ways more than the rest of us do, because they want to keep in touch with the rest of us, but they just don't have those abilities. And as you say, often they have those abilities if they wanted to, but it's such a learning curve to do it that it's not something that they particularly want to get into. To use Facebook for the likes of ourselves is easy. If you don't have the ability or the knowledge to use a keyboard, a mouse, the internet, a web browser, Facebook, all these things are complex when all you want to do is actually receive pictures of your grandkids. And so, someone like your nan is actually a prime candidate for using it.
And it's a wider problem as well. I mean, there are 5.5 million people in the UK over the age of 65 who have never been online. And, they're missing out on so much. And the thing that this really brings is that connection. It's the connection, particularly if you're like, my dad lives 500 miles away in Scotland. We maybe get to see him 3 or 4 times a year. So when you phone up, there's a lot of pressure on that phone call. That you're trying to bring that person up to speed with the things that you're doing, and then a really awkward moment then happens when you hand the phone to the grandchild and say, speak to your granddad. Oh, I don't want to speak to granddad. And then granddad gets upset because his granddaughter doesn't want to speak to him. But with this, because he's seen all the photographs of CJ playing in a new paddling pool, or he's seen the text message where I've relayed a funny thing that my daughter said. What she was saying the other day that just was funny. She said, Daddy, I want to be like Velma from Scooby-Doo because she's the clever one who really solves all the mysteries, not Scooby. So the next time I'm on the phone to my dad, he then repeats that. And, it's a conversation stimulator. He's got a better connection with her life and it stimulates conversation. My dad was one of these people, when you phone up and he'd answer the phone and go, hello, here's your mum. Now when I phone up, we have half-hour conversations about stuff because he's seen all the photographs. Oh, I saw you went, in fact, there's a picture there just now. My sister's in York at the moment visiting York Minster. She sent a picture to him. It's great. So he's now participating in that holiday.
One of the interesting things we found was very early on in the process of Mindings, we were reviewed by the National Guardian. And an early commenter on the article said, great, this is another way that families can avoid seeing each other, talking to each other. We said, actually, we found the complete opposite. What we found is that, as Stu said, it not only generates conversation, but actually improves quality of time spent. So rather than once every 3 or 4 days ringing up grandma sitting in a flat and the conversation becoming, what have you been up to? Not a lot. What have you been up to? Not a lot. The time is actually better because all the things that they've been seeing in the intermediary time, in the middle 2 or 3 days, come up in the conversations.
Okay, well, we're going to be speaking to Ian and Stu throughout the show about Mindings and finding what else it can do. In the meantime, though, if you have got any questions for the guys and want to know more about it, you can text us on 07950 372580 and they'll be happy to answer any questions you will have for them. In the meantime, we're going to go back to some more music.